This is a lesson on how place value affects multiplication. I did it in response to seeing how many kids had trouble with the idea of like 4 times 4/10 is 1 and 6/10. I'd see a lot of kids putting 16/100 instead and not realizing why that was a mistake. So we did this lesson to hopefully help with that problem. So the warm-up, I just had them complete, and then we called out answers, put up all the answers, and looked at some of the patterns that we found. So 32 times 3 is 96. Oh, come on. And then this is 960. And then this is 9.6. And this one is 96. And this one is 96/100. And this one is 9.6, and this one is 960, and this one is also 960. And you can always check these with estimation. So about 3 300s would be 900, and about 3 300s would be 900, and so on and so forth. So kids notice that all of these have 96 in them. The 0, whether there is a 0 might change, where the 0 is, especially for kids who do 0.96, that might change, and the decimal, having a decimal at all might change, where the decimal is might change, but the problems all look very similar, but with different decimal and 0 placement, and the answers all look very similar, but with different decimal and 0 placement. That's what kids start to notice. So the objective is that we'll practice multiplying with different place values and discuss how place value affects multiplication and vice versa. So we start with 14 times 6 and just multiply like normal to see what it equals. So that's 4 times 6 is 24. And 6 times 10 is 60 plus the 20 that we carried is 80. So 84. And then I have them start filling in place values, starting with the smallest place value that we have. The smallest one we have is our ones place. So we have ones, tens, hundreds, tenths, thousands, I'm losing my mind, thousands, and 10,000s. And I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that for my next one, because my next one will be the same. So this is 14 ones, or 1 10 and 4 ones. And this is 84 ones, or 8 tens and 4 ones. And we're very used to this with whole numbers. We know how to put that on a place value chart without much problem. This is 8 tens and 4 ones, because 84 ones won't fit in the ones column. You can only have one digit per column. So it seems fairly obvious for this one. Let's also look at 140 times 6, and a lot of kids do this the long way. 140 times 6, they multiply 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 4, and 6 times 1 plus 2 is 8, and they get 840, which is absolutely correct, but it's unnecessary. We already know what 14 times 6 is. 14 times 6 is 84. Well, what we have here is 14 tens times 6. So we still have 14 times 6. It's just 14 tens times 6. 6 groups of 14 tens, which would give me 84 tens. And since we can only fit one digit per place value, we start with the basic place value, tens, put in our far right number, and then the overflow moves to the left on the place value chart. So there's 800. So 84 tens is the same as 8 hundreds and 4 tens. and there are no ones. So we get 840 the same way. Then we move on to trying it with decimals, and we do 14 hundredths times 6. And I ask kids to go ahead and fill in their lowest place value moving up. So the lowest place value here is hundredths. Hundredths. And then slightly bigger than hundredths, we have tenths, then ones, then tens, then hundreds. So, is it a coincidence that we have ones in the middle and this mirror thing happening where it's tens on one side, tenths on the other, hundreds on one side, hundredths on the other? It's not a coincidence. Our number system is built that way for a reason. Everything's based on the ones place, the units place. So once you get 10 ones, it overflows into the next column. And 100 ones goes into the hundreds column. By the same token, when we break that one up, if we break it up into 10 groups, we have tenths. And if we break it up into 100 groups, we have hundredths. And each place value is 10 times bigger or smaller than the one next to it. So tens are 10 times bigger than ones, hundreds are 10 times bigger than tens, ones are 10 times bigger than tenths, and tenths are 10 times bigger than hundredths. So now we're going to do 14 hundredths times 6. Well, it's still 14 times 6. But like I said, it's 14 hundredths times 6. So our answer comes out in hundredths. So we put our far right digit into our place value column that we're working with, hundredths. And we put the overflow moving to the left. And when we're dealing with place value, where does the decimal belong? Well, it belongs between the ones and the tenths, always between the ones and the tenths. So we have no ones, we have 8 tenths, and we have 4 hundredths, or 84 hundredths. Okay, and this is to help with the concept of the overflow that we get, changing the place value, the way that we say the number. That's the same reason that we would say 8,400 as 8,400. It's 84 hundreds, which is the same as 8 thousands and 4 hundreds. So to really illustrate that, let's try 4 tenths times 4, which I mentioned earlier. Smallest place value is tenths, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in my tenths. And then I'm going to do ones, tens. I'm not going to need anything bigger than that, so I'm not going to fill it in right now. Decimal always goes between the ones and the tenths. And then I just multiply. Well, 4 times 4 is 16, but it's 4 tenths times 4, so our answer is 16 tenths. So that 6 goes in the tenths column, but the overflow has to move over to the next column, so we get a 1 in the ones column and a 6 in the tenths column. So 16 tenths is the same as 1 and 6 tenths. And it's really easy to see with hundredths, because if I do 8 hundredths times 7, so that's hundredths, tenths, ones, tens, and so on. Decimal goes between the ones and the tenths, and we're multiplying 8 times 7, but it's 8 hundredths times 7. So our answer is in hundredths. We get 56 hundredths. So the 6 goes in the hundredths column, the 5 goes in the tenths column, and we have 56 hundredths. We don't even say it differently. It's the same thing as 0 ones, 5 tenths, and 6 hundredths, but we say it 56 hundredths. Okay? So the ones that kids have trouble with when they don't understand this are the ones that are like this one, where it's 4 tenths times 4, and your answer is 16 tenths. Well, we write that as 1 and 6 tenths, not as 0.16, because 0.16 is 16 hundredths, which is different. And then kids have more room to practice, and then the homework, which is more of the same. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know.